Climate change is a real problem that must be taken seriously. Today we'll be talking about how climate change and global warming are affecting 3 different ecosystems. These ecosystems are our oceans, the Arctic, and our forests. Climate change affects these ecosystems in different ways, but we should take into account just how much these 3 ecosystems do for us.
Global warming is threatening the world in so many ways. Our careless acts have polluted the Earth's atmosphere with more carbon dioxide than it can filter. However, it tries everything in its power to remove the CO2 and bring everything back to normal. With the Earth being 70% water, the ocean plays a huge role in this attempt to bring the atmosphere back to healthy CO2 levels. Our oceans are being filled with carbon dioxide, and it is altering marine life, it is affecting humans, it's even slowing down the ocean's natural cycles. But it can be reduced if we all work together. The marine life is being majorly affected by the ocean acidification. The ocean filters 22 million tons of CO2 per day, and that comes with consequences. Marine life that uses calcium carbonate to form their skeletons or shells are being damaged from the high acidity. As temperatures rise from the saturation of carbon, we are seeing mass coral bleachings, which is when coral loses algae and causes the coral to turn completely white. This is a problem because the algae makes up 90% of the energy the coral uses to survive. As the coral reefs die off, so do the fish that once called it home. As the coral reefs become bleached and the ocean warms, fish begin to migrate towards the poles to cooler and more habitable water, and this is having an effect on human life. We depend on the ocean for food, medicine, and for occupations. For example, humans have been depending on the ocean for foods for centuries. But with forced migrations and the rapidly decreasing marine populations, we are finding it hard to balance fishing and doing what is best for the environment. And even then, the fish that we are catching are contaminated with high levels of mercury from the polluted waters. If that's not enough problems with the ocean to deal with, the biological pumps that cycles resources throughout the waters are slowing down to a halt due to global warming. The ocean's biological pump is a process of removing carbon dioxide from the surface water and changing it to nutrients as it is distributed into colder, deeper waters. As temperatures rise and the ocean becomes overflowing with carbon, this pump is slowing down. This is a problem because if the ocean stops this filtering process, it will no longer be able to be a carbon sink and things could really get out of hand. However, while the debate about whether or not things can be reversed is perpetual, we can all do something to help slow down the process and save our oceans. For starters, we can work on reducing our carbon footprint whenever we can by not driving whenever possible or even using a blanket instead of the heater. We should also make more sustainable seafood choices. And if we want to see even bigger changes, we can support organizations that are working to clean our oceans.
Another way global warming is affecting our world today is by affecting the Arctic. Global warming is causing ice sheets to melt and get smaller. This affects us because, just like every other ecosystem, it is very important to animals and other organisms here on Earth. The melting of these ice sheets is causing there to be a rise in sea level, a decrease of population of animals, and an increase of CO2 in the atmosphere. As of right now, if all the ice were to melt off the Arctic, there would be a sea level rise about 70 meters, which is about 230 feet. This would then cause land to shrink significantly, affecting people who live by the coast and other people as well. The melting would also decrease the population of animals because they depend on the ice to live. For example, polar bears. These polar bears depend on the ice because it is where they live. If they were to live on the ocean, they would not survive. Another effect of global warming is the releasing of CO2 from the ice sheets. As mentioned previously, the ocean retains great amounts of CO2. If these ice sheets were to melt, great amounts of CO2 would be released into the atmosphere.
In the US alone, forests occupy about 1/3 of the country's total land area. They provide many beneficial services to us, like providing us with cleaner air, safe spot for our wildlife, climate regulation, carbon storage, and many other things. With temperatures warming, it causes the geographic ranges of some of the tree ranges to change or die off because they cannot live in warmer or colder areas. Forests receive their needed water through rainfall, but depending on which region they are located in, they might be getting too much of it or too little of it now because of this climate change. This causes some areas to flood and others to be in a drought. With extreme changes like these comes dangerous outcomes like the risk of or wildfires occurring, which is harmful not only for the species living there but for our atmosphere as well. Forests absorb most CO2 that is released from the burning of fossil fuels. Too much CO2 in the atmosphere is causing more greenery to happen within the trees and plants because of the increase in photosynthesis. Although it may seem that this is beneficial for the plants, it will increase the temperature in the atmosphere because of the amounts of CO2 and its direct impact to vegetation. More CO2 means more plants, means warmer temperatures all around. But we can do things to improve and maybe save our forests and our atmosphere. We could start by combating deforestation, giving forests more rights in our laws, decreasing the burning of fossil fuels, and stop cutting down our trees to create more man-made structures that will ruin our air even more. Overall, forests are a main contributor to our earth for all living things and not just the wildlife that live in it. Without our forests, Earth would not be livable.